Hi guys, this is Bf-110 and today I'm back with my Durafly or HobbyKing Bf-110. A few among you might have seen the last mod video I did on this bird, the rough terrain mod, which I posted about a week ago, which shows how I modified the landing gear of this plane to cope with bad landing strip conditions here in Berlin. The pilots among you who own a 110 probably found out by now that the plane is kind of bouncy on rough terrain because of the very stiff landing gear. But softer wheels and suspension struts are only two steps to minimize the risk of a crash during takeoff or landing. The third one would be to reduce the takeoff or landing speed, which brings us to flaps. And since this plane does not come with flaps right out of the box, I'm here with another mod video. The flaps on the real 110 cover almost half the length of the wing, which includes the engine nacelles. That makes it rather difficult to install flaps on this bird, so I decided to go just with the inboard portion, at least for now. So I took the plane apart again and started to think how to install them. This plane is not very spacious, and due to the relatively short nose portion of the plane, there is barely enough room to install all the heavy gear in the front to achieve the center of gravity. I'm not a big fan of dead weight in an airplane, so I thought it would be a good idea to install the necessary servos for the flaps as close to the center of gravity as possible, maybe even in front of it to get a little bit more nose weight. And that brought me to the bomb mount, which I had not used on my plane so far. So I took two servos and rewired one of them to install him mirror inverted on the bomb mount. By installing the servos in the bomb mount, I would not have to cut into the wing, so I don't weaken the structure of the wing anymore. I resoldered the servo cables and came out with a single line, and then cut a small cable duct into the bomb mount and the main fuselage to get it to the receiver. The two bombs will later be glued on top of the whole thing and hide the two servos, more or less. A few cuts of my X-Acto knife and a little bit of paint from my airbrush later, the bomb mount was ready for a first test fit. Doesn't look that bad, doesn't it? After preparing the new bomb mount for installation, I turned my attention back to the wing. I took a few measurements and then took my X-Acto knife and cut the new flap into the wing, which was actually not as easy as it might sound because I had to cut exactly along the panel lines. I often use tape or glass fiber strips as hinges on foam planes, but this time I decided I would go with real nylon hinges. This way the flaps will be really easy to move and don't take any extra strain on the linkages or the servos. Then I took a little bit of 1mm steel wire and bent it to connect the flaps to the servos. I usually don't program takeoff positions, but on this particular plane I make an exception. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of bad weather here, so I have to wait to test the whole system. And from experiences with other planes, I need at least a day to find a suitable setup for the plane. Especially the elevator adjustment while using the flaps is kind of tricky to find. So this was it for today. I hope you enjoyed my little slideshow, and as always, if you have any questions about the plane or the mod, please send me a little note and I try to answer it. Have fun at the flying field, guys. Bf-110 out.